Today's story comes from Mary Ellen in Charleston, South Carolina. Mary Ellen slipped into a coma, her body unresponsive, but what she experienced beyond was more vivid than life itself. She found herself in a realm of radiant light, where celestial beings revealed secrets about the afterlife and her true purpose. When she awakened, everything she thought she knew about existence had changed forever. In April of 2010, I was living in St. Augustine, Florida, with no inkling that my life would change forever. It wasn't a dramatic event or a huge, obvious moment of warning. Instead, it was something as simple as a late-night trip to the kitchen for a midnight snack. But that night, I passed out and died, marking the beginning of an experience that would shape the rest of my life. I don't like to focus on the death itself, but rather on what happened after. From my perspective, I was in a state of blissful detachment, floating outside of my own body, observing everything as though I were an observer of a different realm. I was aware of every movement, every conversation, and yet I didn't feel fear or urgency. It was like a natural, inevitable progression of sorts. At the time, I was in the kitchen at around 12 o'clock in the morning. When I lost consciousness, I found myself floating near the ceiling of the dining room, looking down at the room below. The view was almost as if I had transcended the physical and was now outside of my own body. From this vantage point, I watched as my husband led in the paramedics. I could hear their voices, see their swift movements, and I felt no anxiety, only an overwhelming sense of peace. The paramedics worked on my lifeless body, which was now blue and cold, as they tried desperately to revive me. Their efforts went on for 30 minutes. It's recorded in my medical reports that I was clinically dead for 8 minutes, and I am convinced that it could have been even longer. It was during this period that I first began to experience the strange serenity of being neither here nor there. As I floated above, I witnessed my body being wheeled out of the house, but I felt no connection to it. The person they were carrying could have been anyone. It wasn't me anymore. And that, I realized, was the beginning of something far more profound than I had ever imagined. Once my body had been taken away, I watched as the front door of the house swung open, though no one was around to open it. Into the house came several dark blue orbs. These orbs floated and moved in harmony, never colliding with one another. They were vibrant with energy, emitting streams of electric light, and at their centers, I could see a flicker of pure white. Despite their otherworldly appearance, these beings weren't menacing. Instead, they seemed to be observing me, as if awaiting my next move, or perhaps offering their silent support. And then, just as quickly as they had appeared, the orbs returned to the doorway and vanished through it. The door closed behind them, but there was no one to lock it. At this moment, I felt a tap on my shoulder, a gentle, non-threatening touch, and I turned to see a woman standing before me. She informed me, with a voice that carried an aura of authority, yet warmth, that it was time for me to leave. "What is this place?" I asked, feeling the uncertainty of my surroundings. Without answering, she led me away, and I entered what I can only describe as a dreamlike transition. It was as if everything faded into darkness for a few brief moments. And then, when I opened my eyes, I found myself standing in the center of a plateau, one filled with millions of colorful flowers, something that I would never find on Earth. The expanse stretched far and wide, and in the distance, towering mountains rose into the sky, their peaks far higher than anything I had ever seen. The energy in the air was palpable, and the people, thousands of them, buzzed with an undeniable sense of joy and vitality. As I walked outward towards the edge of the plateau, I noticed that everything around me in that scenic place, the grass, flowers, animals, all reacted to my presence. They gently moved aside as I approached, as if respecting my space. There was no weight to my body, but I still felt a deep, intuitive understanding that we, and everything that existed in the land, were all part of the same interconnected whole. The colors around me were beyond what I had ever imagined, vibrant shades that we cannot even perceive in our physical world, emitting waves of energy from the tips of each flower petal, blade of grass. Everything there was alive in ways I cannot explain. In this place, I could create anything I wished. If I thought of a distant mountain, I would be there in an instant. If I wanted to change my appearance or be somewhere else, All it took was the intention. And the music? It wasn't coming from any specific source, but from everything around me. A soft, repetitive chant filled the air, soothing and calming my very soul. If I didn't like the music, I could change it, just like switching a playlist. The whole experience was an immersive, harmonious flow of creation. I felt that I was in control of it, but it was more than what my imagination could have ever dreamed up. I walked with the woman down cobbled pathways, past rivers and lakes, and up through the valleys into an incredible city. The place seemed so far away, thousands of miles in distance, but it felt like no time passed at all. As I walked alongside her, I began to sense something profound. My soul was merging with hers. Her past, her memories, every life she had ever lived, every lesson she had ever learned. I knew them all in their entirety. At that moment, I realized that the very fabric of existence here was energy, and everything was interconnected. Even the buildings were energy-based, not in the way we understand them on Earth, but something far grander. No elevators were needed. We could ascend and descend by simply thinking about it. Months seemed to pass as I walked alongside her, experiencing this world of wonder and enlightenment. But then there came another tap on my shoulder. I turned to face the woman once more, but this time her presence was absent. I was alone. What followed was an experience I can only describe as the most profound and humbling moment of my life. I found myself standing before a magnificent cathedral, its spires reaching so high into the sky that they appeared to defy the laws of physics. The energy here was thick, and the walls and floors seemed to be made from a substance that was far more expansive than anything earthly, sandstone bricks that seemed to stretch endlessly. Inside, I was met by what I describe as the three counselors, as I came to call them. They were not beings in the traditional sense, but powerful energy forms swirling with light and radiance. Their presence was overwhelming, and yet there was no fear. I stood before them in nightgown, feeling entirely unprepared for what would unfold. They showed me a box filled with countless orbs. Each orb contained a memory, an action I had taken in my life. They were not there to judge me, they said, but rather to allow me to process and heal these memories. With their guidance, I picked up an orb containing a memory from my childhood. It was of a time when I had stolen $1 from my friend. As I watched the scene play out, I was detached from the emotion at first, but then, as I immersed myself deeper, I became my child self again, experiencing my own feelings and motivations. I could feel the excitement of taking the $1, but then I also became my friend. I felt her shock and sadness, and how she had been saving the $1 to go get ice cream with her mother later. The intensity of my friend's sadness hit me like a tidal wave. And in that moment, I understood. My actions had consequences, and those consequences rippled through the lives of others. Tears welled up as I processed this memory. I felt sorrow for my friend, for the pain I had caused, and for the ignorance of my younger self. I realized that healing came from accepting responsibility, understanding the deeper layers of our actions, and forgiving ourselves. It was a cathartic experience, one that would be repeated thousands of times over the course of my stay in this realm. I processed thousands of memories, each one offering a new layer of healing. I moved from joyous moments to painful ones, each memory offering its own lesson. The memories no longer existed as they had, but were transformed into pure energy, healed and whole. Then, the dream transition stage returned, and I found myself in another pure, white space. A man approached me, a figure I recognized as my great-grandfather. He told me that I was not supposed to be there, and that I had to return to the physical world. There were lessons yet to be learned, things yet to be done. He shared with me the future of my life, guiding me back to Earth and into the work I would do. He spoke of my return to South Carolina, of the years I would spend working with the schools. He spoke of my son, who would be born under specific circumstances that came to be later on, and the lessons I would learn in the coming years. But perhaps the most important lesson he gave me was about judgment. I learned that we must not judge others by their actions, but by the intent of their hearts. We are all here to grow, to learn, and to heal, just as I had done in that sacred space. After returning to Earth, I began to develop abilities I never knew I had: psychic gifts, intuitive insights, and a deep connection with the spiritual realm. I became a teacher, helping others to find their own path, to heal, and to understand the love and energy that connects us all. My experience in heaven wasn't just an isolated event. It was a profound awakening. I had been given the opportunity to learn about the power of forgiveness, the interconnectedness of all beings, and the importance of self-awareness. I share my story with others, not just to describe my experience, but to remind them of the love and support that surrounds us at all times. For when we align ourselves with that love, we create miracles in our lives, just as I did in that realm beyond. Thank you for watching. If you're intrigued by the mysteries of the mind, subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Until next time, keep questioning the world around you